In the 5th episode of Season 2 of Smiling Friends the Brothers Egg, our two main characters, Charlie and Pym, meet a mad scientist.
I am Professor Psychotic!
Who is trying to create life using DNA and an egg. The result is a homunculus that is a malformed creature gasping for breath and immediately dying. In the mad scientist's anger, and Charlie and Pym's horror, he grabs a book and smashes his abomination. The title of that book is The God Delusion by Richard Dawkins. The God Delusion argues against the existence of a divine creator. It presents the case that the belief in God is irrational and delusional, promoting atheism and a scientific worldview as an alternative to religion. So why would the creators use this book to smash Professor Psychotic's failed mad science experiment? But before we get into that, let's talk about Season 2, Episode 7, The Magical Red Jewel. Particularly how Zach and Michael call back to the pilot episode 2 times. The first callback is when Mr. Boss talks about his infant 18-year-old son Jason for the first time since episode 1. Although Jason made a brief appearance in episode 7, frowning friends, sleeping on Mr. Boss's desk. The second callback is Charlie having a stern talk with Alan for sucking on his nose in episode 1. Now if you go back and watch the episode, you can clearly see it is in fact Charlie that initiates contact here. He even pulls Alan in. Now, did Alan cross the line with the nose sucking? I would say yes, but at first glance this looks like a mutual exchange. The characters, much like the show itself, have evolved. Charlie's new discomfort signifies a deeper self-awareness of who he really is, and because of that, he chooses to revisit an uncomfortable situation in order to set it straight and lay down new boundaries.
It did bother me, but hey, dude, look, I mean, that's why I bring it up now, like, just so we can hash it out.
Honestly, it just seems like some good communication in the workplace, if you ask me. But it could also be interpreted as Charlie prioritizing his own integrity and asserting his agency, ensuring a respectful friendship with Alan in the future. Charlie has come to embrace a mindset focused on self-accountability and rationality. He often behaves in a stoic manner. He focuses on self-improvement, noting that you have to be the best version of yourself before you can succeed in life.
The single best thing you can do to get your life in order and be attractive to chicks is to get in shape and become an alpha male like me.
He has integrity and prefers to uphold his principles rather than give in to societal pressures.
He doesn't want to dress up as anything.
Listen, I've seen way too many people get their careers ruined over old Halloween costumes. I'm not doing it.
He remains detached from things outside of his control.
Look, I'm just not interested in getting involved in politics, okay? Sorry.
He's not afraid to assert control over his immediate environment.
So we really need to be left alone.
He stays true to his word and makes good on his threats.
Dude, I warned you. I said I was going to do that if you did that again.
But like all men, Charlie struggles with those ideals as well. He wants to be seen as an alpha male, will even lie to protect this version of himself.
If I would have hit him, dude, I was about to hit him so hard, but my arm is so freaking sore from the gym.
Struggling to remain calm in a terrifying situation. Or failing to remain unbothered while experiencing physical pain. Or becoming drunk and aggressive.
Charlie, you're scaring me.
Come here.
This humanizes him, making his character more relatable and complex. But there's something else about Charlie's character that makes him even more interesting to me. In a genre where Christianity is rarely portrayed in a positive light, Charlie stands out as a character who makes Christianity look cool.
I vote we go see the big Jesus first.
Alan, I think you mean Christ the Redeemer, dude.
Oops.
Now, I won't forget Ned Flanders, the original adult animation Christian figure. While there are times Ned is occasionally portrayed as a cool guy, much of the show initially poked fun at his overzealous beliefs. Over the years, The Simpsons has developed Ned into a more complex character, exploring his personal struggles and relationships. Despite this added depth, many interactions with Ned still revolve around his exaggerated Christian identity being a central part of his character. It's funny because he's always super friendly and trying to adhere to strict religious principles. That's the running gag here. Ned Flanders is the comically devout Christian. Hank Hill from King of the Hill provides a consistent example of a somewhat normal Christian character in adult animation. Like Charlie, Hank's faith is woven into the fabric of his character. However, Hank's Christianity is portrayed more strictly. He regularly attends church, participates in church activities, and seeks guidance from his faith in making decisions. He also disapproves of most things that stray from his traditional views.
Can't you see you're not making Christianity better? You're just making rock and roll worse.
Hank Hill is the boomer Christian. If Hank Hill is the boomer Christian representing a more traditional and conservative approach to faith, then Homer Simpson could be seen as the Gen X Christian. Although Homer is technically a boomer, his faith is less devoted, reflecting skepticism of religion, typical of Generation X compared to the previous generation. Episodes like Homer the Heretic showcase his tendency to question and stray from organized religion, only to rediscover its value in unexpected ways. He often engages with religion in a comedic manner, such as becoming a prophet or joining a cult. His approach reflects a a more laid-back and less dogmatic view of faith, often driven by immediate desires or crisis rather than deep-seated belief.
There's no way in God's heaven I should get into God's heaven, but maybe he'll let me in if I warn others the apocalypse is coming.
If Hank Hill is the boomer Christian and Homer Simpson is the Gen X Christian, Randy Marsh from South Park could be described as the opportunistic Christian. Randy's approach to religion is often driven by self-interest, reflecting a hypocritical relationship with his faith. Stan Smith from American Dad could be seen as a right-wing fanatical Christian. His character often embodies extreme devotion that is aligned with conservative values. This is demonstrated through his intense and often misguided attempts to impose his religious beliefs and values onto others. In contrast, Charlie in Smiling Friends is a main character whose faith is an integral part of his identity, yet doesn't dominate his character. Charlie is the casual Christian. He's a representation of Christianity with very little over-the-top behavior or exaggerations. This more nuanced, subtle approach to his faith, combined with the fact that he navigates a world filled with bizarre and often dark humor, makes this feel very different from most adult animation. What's going on, Janitor Squad? It's good to be back. If you're enjoying this content, I would greatly appreciate it if you would hit that subscribe button so my channel can finally get to 100,000 subscribers. Charlie rarely talks about his religious beliefs. He just acts on them sometimes or in desperate times. Like a lot of people, it's a small part of who he is, and while there is times he seems guided by his Christian belief, he is not always perfect at it. For instance, we see Charlie keeping true to his word and carrying out a burial service for a man he barely knew and praying over his body. The only issue is that the man is a discontinued food item that Charlie really enjoys. When his friend Pim comments that he never actually tried that particular menu item, Charlie's desire to share his love of Salty's food with his friend compels him to dig up the body so they can consume him instead. Charlie occasionally resonates with the aura of an old-school Catholic or Christian figure seen in classic mafia narratives. This connection is particularly evident when Charlie is lounging in a hot tub casually wearing a cross necklace. This imagery invokes the traditional depiction of Italian-American mobsters who, despite their morally dubious activities, maintain a visible connection to their faith. His references to his shady uncle further amplify this connection.
My uncle had some sleeping pills laying around to help him sleep at night after he rammed his car into a crowd of people.
Despite the unrealistic situations and setting of this show, the dialogue and character building can remain grounded. That's part of the reason this show is so brilliant. Now, if you're watching this with no idea what the cultural climate is currently like in American media, you would look at American demographics and say, why is a straightforward Christian representation in a predominantly Christian nation funny or edgy or even a thing that we are talking about right now? Well, let me take you back to 1995, the year South Park released their second animation tape that got passed around Hollywood. People couldn't believe it. It was a videotape of Jesus and Santa fighting. In 1995, this joke was the funniest thing on earth. Combined with TV animation, it was basically unheard of. Their brains were exploding. They were rapidly copying the tape on VHS, mailing it to each other's mailboxes, cackling and foaming at the mouth. They were laughing so hard. Little they know, a lot of them are next on the chopping block. But no one had ever seen something so outrageous in animated form. Nowadays, any 10-year-old can make this exact joke on Fortnite. And yes, it changed the world of comedy for the better. But unfortunately, the last time I legitimately laughed at anything clever like this was when South Park took Jesus to the Middle East to rescue Santa. That was a funny gag, but that was back in 2002. Now he's usually just comically depicted in cool or badass ways. Maybe he's back for revenge for being crucified, or maybe he has a cool black sidekick that says one-liners, or maybe he is the black guy that says one-liners. Maybe he's taking HGH, or he's an action hero, or fighting Dracula. Maybe he's super sexy or a tech billionaire. He's treated more like a comic book character at this point. So when the norm is depicting Jesus in hilarious and unlikely ways since 1995, is that still considered edgy in 2024? Some messages and themes can still remain relevant over decades, but comedy is typically something that needs to evolve. Otherwise, I'd still be watching Rick and Morty. In this new cultural climate, what was once considered shocking is now part of the norm. While characters like Homer Simpson, Peter Griffin, Randy Marsh, and Stan Smith often engage in behavior that is far from what you'd expect from religious men, their characters have occasionally touched upon the themes of faith. By doing so, they have paved the way for more nuanced depictions of religion in adult animation. By choosing Dawkins' book, the episode is highlighting the tension between modern-day science and traditional spiritual belief. The grotesque failure of the homunculus serves as a reminder that there are aspects of human existence that may be beyond our understanding and control, a theme that resonates deeply within all religion. Now, what did the creators mean by this? And why did they make Charlie a casual Christian? I've narrowed it down to 5 possible reasons. Number 1. They meant absolutely nothing. After watching season 1, I figured one of the creators was a funny Christian guy who wanted to spread the word of Jesus. It was almost endearing to me, like, hey, here's this guy, he's standing out from the crowd, he's trying to like subtly teach the values of Jesus. I thought good for him. But it is through my research and understanding of these two bizarre gentlemen that they don't care about that crap at all. And they did not write those lines to spread the word of Jesus Christ. They just did it because they thought it would be funny. That is the driving force behind every decision they are making. This is one of the best representations of Christians in media because the creators just thought it would be funny. Almost like a joke you would come up with your friend when you're both really, really high. They just happen to be doing it really, really well. It almost feels like they are trying to antagonize someone to call them out on it. Like another article from the Illuminati that is hypercritical without really understanding what the creators are even doing. For instance, the joke,
"And Christianity was right all along,"
or some of the last words spoken in season 1. At first it seems like a bold statement, but when you look deeper, you discover it is just a joke where Zach hired his Jewish voice actor friend Joshua Tomar to say the line. So here it could seem like to the average viewer that they were trying to make some controversial statement about religion, but it's also just an example of the show's playful humor and the creators having fun with their friends. Zach and Michael repeatedly emphasize that their goal is just to make people laugh, and the show has no deeper meaning or agenda. Just to take this one step further and show the true origins of this joke, this whole sequence is inspired by an old internet hoax of a guy in Russia creating a homunculus.
No, I'm not joking. He smashes it with a Bible and it explodes on the table.
So they just took that and twisted it around. However, in the real video that Zach is referencing, it is not actually a Bible, but allegedly a Chinese to Russian dictionary. I wouldn't know for sure because
I don't speak a lick of that wacky language.
So once again, it may not really be that deep. It's just a reference to an old internet video. Now, with that being said, it's clear that Smiling Friends is a project that the creators have been deeply passionate about. Their hands-on approach is evident in every detail of the show. Unlike shows like Family Guy or The Simpsons, which often rely on large writing rooms, Smiling Friends feels more personal and authentic. This authenticity comes from the creators' recent and direct ascent from being independent content creators to producing a major animated series. Their proximity to the ground level of internet culture allows them to craft content that feels fresh and unfiltered. It's an environment free from the formula that typically shapes mainstream animated shows. 2. Character contrast. Positive depictions of Christianity can create interesting contrasts within the show's universe. For instance, when a ketchup packet pleads with Charlie that he had to commit a violent murder to make fast food greasy again, Charlie remarks that while he agrees fast food should be greasy, he would never break the 6th commandment. This moment highlights Charlie's steadfast adherence to his faith, even in the face of bizarre situations. Number 3. Writing purposes. For characters like Charlie, incorporating elements of faith might be a way to add complexity. By giving Charlie a religious dimension, the creators can explore different aspects of his personality and motivations, making him more relatable and fun to write. In Charlie's trip to hell, he encounters his grandma and is perplexed about what she is doing there. She claims she accidentally slipped up and said the word damn when Charlie's grandfather was shot in the face by a burglar. Charlie pauses for a second before exclaiming that he thinks that is unreasonable and people shouldn't go to hell for such minor offenses. This commentary shows that Charlie still maintains his own sense of justice and fairness and is willing to question the strictness of his own religion. Number 4. Avoiding cynicism. Most adult animated shows are heavily critical of religion and other institutions.
There is no God in your face!
By presenting a positive take, Smiling Friends sets itself apart from this trend in offering a fresh perspective and positive outlook on life. Charlie's genuine faith and open declaration of loving his God provide a sense of authenticity and heartfelt belief. This sincerity stands in contrast to the often ironic or mocking tone found in other shows, contributing to the show's more uplifting atmosphere. It may all just be a joke, but it inadvertently creates a space where faith is portrayed as a normal and joyous part of life, and their vehicle for doing that is just hanging out with one of the boys.
I love my boys.
I love all you guys.
It's definitely better than having a friend that looks up to Rick Sanchez.
My friends refer to me as like the Rick friend because like I'm smart and all I do is talk shit about everything because it's fun.
Okay, like Rick from like
Because I'm a
The
hater
Walking Dead.
and I went through some shit. Nah, Sanchez, the bad one.
Number 5, challenge the status quo. I do appreciate that South Park has attempted to remain culturally relevant for decades now, but I think it becomes apparent that as their net worth approaches $1 billion, they become increasingly removed from the genuine everyday experiences of most Americans. Zach and Michael grew up watching shows like South Park that relied on mocking religion for shock value. They saw an opportunity to flip this trend and they took it. And then they wrote some of the most relatable dialogue I've ever seen in a show to make it feel even more authentic.
Austin is the funniest guy that I know. I think think I can say, you know what I mean? I think
I
you should
agree.
do stand-up, you know what I'm saying?
Probably not
Like,
stand-up, but no, he is funny.
Yeah, try to stand-up, but yeah.
No, it's harder.
It's just different.
And while we're on the subject of authenticity, this may not be the universal experience, but the final scene of season 2 perfectly sums up every point I'm trying to make.
I love my friends, and I love my God, and I love my country, and God bless America, I guess. What else can you say?
This personally mirrors a lot of my own experiences. Everyone I know who's ever had a moment of deep religious conviction was just like Charlie. Often they were drunk on a beach or at a party. Living in a fraternity house in college, it felt like God only existed for us in those late night inebriated moments. Outside of those instances, we were usually caught up in the typical chaos and debauchery of college life. Most guys didn't walk around openly displaying their faith or discussing religion. Many had cross tattoos or necklaces, subtle symbols of their faith that weren't always front and center in their daily lives. Being Midwest college students in a farming town, we did not have a beach, but we did have a local quarry with sand that more closely resembled kitty litter. Just like Charlie, who while drunk on a beach proclaimed, "I love my friends, I love God," many of us would do something similar. These drunken declarations felt genuine and were often never spoken of again. So now that we've established all of that, let's get to the title of the video and check out the surprising religious subtext in Smiling Friends. In the first episode of Smiling Friends, Desmond's Big Day Out, Charlie and Pim return to the office to file some paperwork when they are confronted with one of their co-workers being crucified. This scene stands out because it seems to be one of the few instances in the series where religion is handled in a purely surface-level comedic manner. This is reminiscent of the kind of humor you might find in shows like Rick and Morty or Family Guy, where religious references are often made for a quick laugh without deeper meaning. It plays on the irony that while Jesus was crucified for a higher cause, Alan is crucified for something as trivial as wanting cheese. His kind of humor sets a tone that might make viewers expect the show to handle religious themes in a similar mocking fashion throughout. However, as the series progresses, it becomes clear that this is one of the few times religion is portrayed in such a tone. In the second episode, Charlie is seen drunk in a hot tub wearing a cross necklace. Upon first viewing, this appears to be just another religious joke similar to Alan's crucifixion, but this is also our first glimpse into Charlie's moral code. Charlie might be overindulging in some well-earned relaxation, but the cross necklace hints at a deeper layer to his character, one that the audience is not yet aware of. But by season 2, his religious principles remain mostly unwavering, with the only significant deviation occurring under extreme circumstances, such as the fear of being tortured for an eternity. A good example of this commitment is shown in episode 5, Who Violently Murdered Simon S. Salty. Throughout the episode, we see Charlie's deep love for Salty's food, his desire for it to be greasy again, and his disappointment with the new menu items. And the one man standing in his way has been murdered. Instead of Charlie celebrating the fact that fast food will be greasy again, he becomes overly obsessed with catching the killer. God himself makes an appearance in episode 8. God is portrayed as a faceless entity represented by a shining beacon of light. In many religious texts, encountering God directly is often described as overwhelming or impossible for mortals. For example, in the Bible, when Moses encounters God in the form of a burning bush, he cannot look directly at him. The portrayal of God as a faceless light reflects the idea that God's true form is beyond human comprehension. In episode 9, the Smiling Friends go to Brazil. There's a notable scene where Charlie laughs at Alan's ignorance about the Christ the Redeemer statue. Alan's subsequent acceptance of Charlie's correction without resistance further establishes the idea that Charlie is the central figure in the group. Charlie's correction of Alan also shows a level of cultural literacy is expected within the group, implying that not knowing such a prominent Christian symbol is something worthy of mild ridicule within the Smiling Friends. In season 2, episode 6, Charlie and Pim travel back to Earth on an alien spaceship only to discover the horrific truth of their own reality. This scene plays with the idea of a literal interpretation of the Bible versus modern scientific understanding. Charlie's initial acceptance of a spherical Earth aligns with the perspective of many casual Christians who integrate modern scientific understanding with their faith. His crisis upon discovering that the earth is flat, as described in the Bible, highlights the potential turmoil faced when foundational beliefs are shattered. Even those with a religious background can experience significant doubt and confusion when confronted with evidence that contradicts their modern worldview yet aligns with their spiritual one. Just like when I met Jesus in the astral realm with Joe Rogan. My mind was split into a million pieces as I was fed knowledge from the past 7 billion years of our planet. And Jesus told me I was put on this earth for one specific purpose: to advocate for Jared Leto to return as a multiverse Joker in a James Gunn film. If you would like to join the Jared Leto Joker fan club, please join my Patreon so I can fulfill my life's purpose and spread the good word that Jared Leto Joker is at least the 4th best live action Joker.